Well, good day, everybody. Great to see everyone here today. Today's guest on our Business Spotlight is Mr. Des Whelan from WLR-FM in County Waterford. Des, you're very welcome. Great to see you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Tom. Thank you, and thanks for having me along.
Great to have you on board. We'd like to get a wide spectrum of people on this. So tell the audience here, what is it you do? How long have you been doing it?
Okay, so what I do is I run WLR, and then I'm a shareholder and a director of Beat, who are in the same building as us. So I started that about 20 years ago, and I'm also a shareholder and the chairman of Red FM down in Cork there. So that's kind of what I do. So the day job is running WLR and doing a bit with the others, and I have a few other directorships which would be relevant to the radio station as well.
So you're not doing an awful lot, really.
No, I'm not doing too much. I kind of get through the day, and I enjoy having plenty to do. So
yeah, you have lots to do, which is fantastic. Yeah. So tell us this anyway. COVID came along with those 3 years, and did you have to make any changes? What was foisted upon you due to COVID, or did it change your work habits at all?
You know, I was just telling you before we started, we just had a board meeting there today, and I was talking to the guys in the Irish Times who own the business with me, and they were, they still would have a lot of staff out, working from home or working remotely. We would have very few, because we're a radio station. It's immediate. We need presenters on air. Most of us worked through COVID, so we didn't have too much remote working. We had a bit, but not a lot, and most people chose to come back. So we kind of left it to people as to whether they wanted to come back to their desk or work a hybrid situation. So no, it's we have most people back now. We have a small number that are working at home because it suits them better. Might be accounts and stuff like that. So not huge change at the time. A lot of change because business took a bit of a fell off a cliff and that, but it's recovered quite well. And I suppose we all realized a lot. I think during COVID that there was more to life than work. I think was part of it.
Fair comment.
And that a lot of people had to think about what they were doing, and maybe decided to change things in their life, whether that was work or what have you. So I think there was a bit of that. So we've had quite a bit of staff movement over the last year. So I think as a result of COVID, which we wouldn't have seen too much of prior to that.
And tell me, as a matter of interest, what changes would you have seen amongst your customers vis-a-vis leveraging radio as a channel to get to reach their customers? Yeah,
sure. I mean, things haven't recovered wholly. Like, for example, a lot of it would be like the car business would be a major spender on newspapers and radio. That hasn't come back because they can't get cars and what have you. I suppose a lot of meetings now are like today on Zoom or on Teams because they just are an efficient use of time. We would have 4 board meetings a year, for example. 2 are on Teams and the other 2 are in person. And I think most companies have found that, there's nothing like meeting face to face, but also in terms of time efficiency, virtual meetings really make sense. Yeah,
absolutely. But I've said I'm a great advocate of radio and use of radio, and I just think it's a very underused channel. Because I think people have this perception, it's very expensive, and I have to say, I genuinely think that a lot of businesses could benefit by leveraging your type of business much more and getting that audience reach.
Yeah, we've been very lucky here in Waterford because the station has always been strong, and it commands, up around 70% of all adults every week in Waterford. It's the current local radio station of the year and has been for the last 4 years. So it's a very high performance station. And we're seeing lots of good things, like the smartphone has been very, very good for local radio. People are listening on it, they can get their news on it, and we all have a kind of a digital channel that goes alongside the radio station. Smart speakers are very good. So the opportunity to listen has increased quite a lot over the last 2 or 3 years. we would have a lot of listeners. For example, I often use this as an example. Online, WLR would get about 1.3 million hits a month. When we do a live match, we would have listeners in 181 countries. When we're playing hurling, maybe in the league or in the championship. So you know, there's lots of angles to it, and
great reach and a good branding exercise for a lot of different types of businesses there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, most of our listeners are within the confines of Waterford, and
I get that. But as I was saying to you earlier before we started, I mean, Waterford has really come on an awful lot from the business perspective. It's got a lot of credence and credibility down there with the types of companies, the investment that's gone on down there. So it's a real hub now. I mean,
there's been an amazing transformation, Tom, because you know when Waterford Crystal closed the stores there in around 2009. It was like the world had ended, and you felt that there was going to be thistles growing on the main street, because you know in their heyday they employed 3,000 people. They were the best paid workforce in the country, so it was a huge loss. And you know, I remember, you know, everybody was waiting for you know the next big company to come into town, and it never came. You know, we always thought the IDA were going to march over the hill with somebody who was going to give us 2,000 jobs, and that didn't really happen. But what did happen is the likes of Bosch and Lomb expanded from 800 people to 1,700, and lots of the other companies, the pharma and IT expanded. Nearform, Red Hat, came to, so we actually have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country.
I read that somewhere there recently.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, isn't it? So tell me, moving on to a more personal thing, what would you tell our listeners? What are the biggest learning that you've had since you've been a business owner? Yeah,
I think I was thinking about that last night, and I wrote down a few things which I left at home. Anyway, I think it's very important that you treat people as you would like to be treated yourself, first and foremost. You know, I think it's absolutely, you know, the rock that you should build your business on. I think you need to be kind to people. You get absolutely nowhere from not being so. I remember a very well known and brilliant businessman was in the station one day 30 years ago. Peter Quealy, they owned All Meats and that huge business there, and he asked me one day could he come in to have a look at the radio station. I was amazed. I said sure, you know, and I brought him around, and how do you get on with your staff? Good. And he says just always remember thanks costs nothing. And, you know, it's very important to be appreciative of people, and I suppose to work hard and do your best and, you know, take other people's views on board. But at the end of the day, there's another saying that stuck with me for years, you know, in all the parks and all the cities, there are no statues or committees. So sometimes there's hard calls to be made, and you have to make them.
I like that. So show respect to people. Yeah, I think that's very good.
I think you do have to make them, and I think if you shy away from making them, you probably won't survive.
Yeah, and you got to create that culture within your business. Yes. Tell me, what does the future of the radio industry look like to you, Des?
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty bright. Like traditional media is in a whirlpool. It's been a very tough time for the likes of newspapers, less so for us. And we're starting to claw back. The drop off in kind of listenership has stopped. The whole thing that podcasts are going to take over the world and that people are going to be listening to Spotify and they'll never listen to the radio for music again has not happened. 84% of adults in the country are listening to radio. Lots of different radio stations, but they are over a week. So the reality is the medium is here to stay. And I think at a fairly decent level. I suppose the worrying thing is, you know, that we're all competing for advertising with Google and with Facebook. They're unregulated. For example, you have a ludicrous situation where all the radio stations in the country today, FM, Beat, WLR, News Talk, Galway Bay FM, we pay a levy to the Broadcasting Authority, which is now the Media Commission from the 1st of March. Google and Facebook don't pay a levy. In fact, we're paying for them to now be regulated. So
really?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a bit of there needs to be a more level playing
field. Yes, yes.
And I think what's very important, Tom, is like, I think, I don't know where you grew up, but if you grew up in a rural town or a city, no, you grew in
Dublin. I'm afraid, in Dublin. I'm a Dublin Jackie.
But a local newspaper and a local radio station is a very important part of the fabric of society down the country. Hugely important to the community. And not from a personal point of view, but it would be sad to lose that. And I'm talking about local newspapers here. And I think the government needs to support the news element of local newspapers, or make some contribution, and local radio stations, because it's a hugely costly part of the business. And for example, I mean, it is very hard to hold on to good journalists, because pharma companies and tech companies are taking the cream. And it's really important that we create good journalists in local newspapers and local radio stations. And they go off to RT, or they go off to News Talk or BBC. We've had loads of people over the years who've done all of that. But we still need to be an attractive starting point for young journalists, and for journalists who decide they want to make their life in Waterford.
I think you mentioned the word community there, and that's really important. Community is local. So therefore, giving them all the world news is great, because people should have an awareness of that. But equally, what's important to the local community? Well, it's actually what's going on in this new development down the road, what's going on, the new businesses opening up here, what new grants are coming to the air, what new roads are coming. So the community and local stuff, very, very important, absolutely. So tell me, just these things are going out, are there any offers you'd like to offer the listeners here? Maybe perhaps on advertising or anything else like that you'd like
to we're always on advertising, we're always good value, and your local radio station, be it in Limerick, Cork, Galway, Tipperary, wherever, you'll always get good value. So no, I hope people support their local media. I think it's a very important part of the fabric of society in this country, and really that's it.
Can you hear me, Des? I'm afraid it's just gone a little awry there. Des, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yes, I'm back. Sorry, don't worry.
Tom, I've been very fortunate. I started the station in 1978 as a pirate station. Nice. And we were very fortunate to get a license 10 years later in 1988. And I've made a living doing what I like doing in my hometown. I've had the pleasure of working with really tremendously talented people, and been in business with very good people. So I've been very lucky. I've had a great career without having to travel too far to do it. And yeah, so look, I've been fortunate.
Well, listen, I'm delighted. Listen, thank you so much, Des, for investing your time with us today. We've all enjoyed an awful lot. I certainly would be interested in following up with your station to see how we could reach different clients and different people down there, because it's a great medium to have. I'm a huge believer in radio. I think it's a fantastic medium, and a lot of businesses should try more of it, at least to see what the results are. Des from WLR-FM Waterford, thank you so much for your time today, Des. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Tom. Okay, thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.